We are live here with this week's episode of Midweek Motivation on the Black Motivation Broadcast. We are here with educator and founder of the Urban Literacy Academy, Mr. Daimen Poole. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
For sure. So let us hop straight into this interview. So please share with us what sparked your desire to get involved with mentoring the youth, creating opportunities for them to get exposed to urban literature and financial literacy.
I always had a heart for doing stuff for my community and kind of prioritizing that connection with the people around me. So as I got older, and opportunities started to present themselves for me to be in the community, I just wanted to do more and more. And then once I got into the field of education, connecting with young people was something that came naturally.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I just wanted to be impactful in any way possible.
Amen.
Here we are.
That's so awesome. And here you are, you know, at the very beginning and at the very middle of your journey. You know what I mean? What went through your mind when you started the Urban Literacy Academy?
I just wanted young boys and girls of color to be able to read books about people that look like them. And to be able to see images, cultural references that represented the places and spaces that they exist. And they say, you know, statistically that students who read literature that closely resembles the life in which they live, they do much better at reading and writing.
Awesome. And so that's some of the impact that you've seen in your work with the youth when you interact with them in the schools.
Yes.
That's awesome. And so given the current climate, what 3 books do you think to start are important for our youth to read to get a better understanding of the world that they face?
Let's see. Hummingbirds in the Trenches by Kondwani Fidel. We Speak for Ourselves by D. Watkins. And what is the book that I'm reading right now? Oh, The Beautiful Struggle by Ta-Nehisi Coates.
Awesome. Yeah. Awesome. And so what is the first thing you teach youth about financial literacy that you wish someone had told you, or that you feel that you know is fundamental at a young age?
It's not about how much money you have. It's about how good your credit is. So teaching my students about the fundamental structure of credit and how it works, and how balancing good and bad credit allows you to navigate through the world and gain access to a vehicle, or buying a house, or, you know, doing the extravagant things that you would like to do, but then also being able to build a future for your family and so on.
That's awesome. And so, you know, there's a lot going on in the news. There's a lot going on in our world as Black people. And so how do you engage and encourage your mentees and others concerning current events like recent tragic interactions with the police and the riots?
So one thing that I've been doing is teaching virtually.
Okay.
And so a lot of the time I'm reposting articles. We're going live and having discussions amongst the class. And giving them space to have an opinion, say what they want to say. Sometimes, be it misinformed, it's good to kind of get them looking at the world and getting their perspective just slightly tweaked, so they can go out and be productive members of our society.
That's awesome. Kind of redirecting their focus a little bit and hearing from them, giving them a voice. It's so important. And so what advice would you have to give to those who want to start getting involved in working with the youth?
I don't know if there's really any advice I would give. I would just say go do it. You can volunteer at a school. You can volunteer at a church. You can go to other organizations that already exist and offer your time. If you are one of those people that is hell-bent on starting your own, I suggest you do a lot of research a lot of prep, a lot of planning, and be fully ingratiated into the work that's necessary to get your own nonprofit off the ground. And just be in it for the right reasons. You know, a lot of people, they get into this line of work because they think it's money behind it, but you don't ever break even. So, you know, that's it.
Okay. And so now, knowing what you know now, what advice would you give yourself if you could go back in time to the beginning of your career?
Always be kind. Always be kind.
Okay.
Yeah, even when people say things that aren't true, or people make you feel like the work that you're doing isn't doing any good or making any difference. Like, just be kind, because you never know. You know, you could be changing that person's perspective, or hopefully looking at one of your investors later on down the line.
Right. And so can you think of a time where you really did feel discouraged, and tell us how you handled it?
A time where I really felt discouraged.
Or like, you know, that it was hard working with the youth. You know, was there ever a time like that?
It's hard every day. Like, I don't know, like, people have in their mind that, like, yo, like, it's just so, like, yo, I mean, this shit is hard, bro. Like, if you're not in the streets, if you're not doing the work every single day, I've had to watch kids graduate and watch kids get put in the ground, right? So it's like, you know, you see the entire spectrum doing this type of work. So if people aren't fully invested in really trying to create change and really trying to be ingratiated into these families and into these young people, like, yo, it's cool, just step off. It might not be for you.
Right.
But if this is what you're really into, my best advice is just like, yo, it's time to get your hands dirty. Like, you're gonna have to, you don't have to go on the projects and sit on the couch.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to try a meal that doesn't necessarily look delicious.
Right.
You're gonna have to, go into a house that's got roaches. Like, you like, everything ain't always sweet. You know what I'm saying? So you gotta really be in this for the long haul.
Yes.
And when you come into it with that perspective, it makes things easier. Because when you, like, I'm a shooter, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you call me, like, Poole, like, I want to do this, this, and this, I'm going to help you put together the plan, and then we just going to go do it.
Right.
Some people are very hesitant. I'm not that guy. Like, oh, we got to go down to the troll projects? Say less. I mean, like, we can't be afraid of our own people.
Right.
Like, I think that's one of the biggest hurdles that as an education community, as an academic community, that we have to overcome. Is a lot of Black people are scared of Black people. They scared to go in the hood. They scared to touch people. They scared to hug people. They scared to dap people up. They scared to show love. Like, it's weird.
Yeah.
And for me, I'm always down, like, and that's why I'm like, our conversation before we went on the air, that's why I'm always good no matter where I go.
Right.
Because I'm always going to run into somebody that knows the work that I do and be like, yo, that's my man.
Yeah.
Yo, show love. He do this.
Right.
So I'm navigating through the world right now with my social equity at 1,000.
Yeah.
So
makes sense. And that's really powerful. The work that you do touches people. When you can walk into any room and someone says, hey, that's that guy right there. You should get to know that guy right there. So how has the pandemic affected you, and what are you doing to stay encouraged? How are you staying encouraged?
The pandemic has affected me just with not being able to be my most functional self. Like I like to get out and do things and collaborate with people and that sort of thing. So I've been kind of just limited on that. But the thing that's kind of helping me get through this whole scenario is really just a lot of reading, a lot of writing, a lot of listening, doing this yoga. So just trying to adapt new things to my arsenal. So people know, like, oh, like he really added things to his toolbox along the way.
Right. Yes, that's awesome. And so we're going to get into some fun questions, but we have come to the end of our scripted Black Motivation broadcast, Midweek Motivation. And so, what words would you like to leave our audience with in this week's episode of Midweek Motivation?
There's a quote I always say. I heard it from an old head when I was coming up. He used to say, "Life is good, so good I'd live it twice if I could." And that's how you got to be, man. Life, the fact that you get to wake up and you living, it's a good day every day.
Yes. So awesome. So what are 3 of your favorite Black films? Black films of all time.
3 of my favorite Black
films. 3 important pivotal films in our history.
Malcolm X.
Malcolm X.
The Color Purple.
Color Purple. Okay.
And I'm gonna go. I'll go recent.
Okay.
And I'll say The Help.
Okay. Help. So why those 3?
Well, Malcolm X. I mean, we kind of know it.
Yes.
How pivotal that movie is.
Right.
The Color Purple. I think it represents the strength that a lot of Black women possess. And I think it's one of the better examples of like just how strong Black women are.
Yes.
And it's shameful, but maybe like 2 or 3 months ago was my first time ever watching it.
Okay.
So I saw it as a kid, and I never really like paid it. Like it just didn't grab me at 7 or 8 years old. So one day I was kind of going down the BET rabbit hole.
Okay.
And it was on. So let me sit down and really watch this.
Yeah.
I watched it, and I was like, minus the commercials, Jesus Christ, BET, y'all gotta work on that, bro. And commercials every 10 minutes, but it was just a great movie. Like it was just like I was getting upset at the commercials because I'm like, yo, this movie's too good for y'all to keep putting commercials in. Right. And then The Help.
Yes.
Again, another movie, and this is just my recency bias. Not necessarily any movies that I favor over another.
Okay.
But The Help, again, another film I kind of overlooked because I'm not a huge like Oprah film movie guy.
Okay.
But I sat down and watched it yesterday.
Okay.
And I was like, yo, first off, Viola Davis is like,
yes, amazing.
But the story was so eloquently written. And you really get a true sense of like, again, I'm on this kick for like understanding like Black women.
Okay.
And I think it does an amazing job of, again, exhibiting how strong Black women have to be.
Yes.
Despite the turmoil and heartache and pain that surrounds them on a daily basis.
Okay, so speaking of turmoil and strength, what do you think are things that Black men go through that you think they don't get enough credit for, or that they struggle with that is not as publicized?
Oh man, gosh. All right, so I'm probably going to say some things that people may not agree with, but I can only be me.
Okay.
I guess one of the first things is we are kind of caught in this catch-22.
Okay.
When it comes to dealing with society as a whole.
Okay.
Because we have to meet the demands and challenges of this kind of Eurocentric ideology, and still support our Black families, our Black communities, our Black households.
Yeah.
And it causes an impasse.
Okay.
So a lot of times you see Black men kind of suffering from having to work the 9 to 5 to live an overly structured life, and it takes away from their ability to sustain the household in the proper way.
Okay.
And so we get bashed a lot of times for that. And I'm a man that catches it all the time, right? Like, I gotta work to take care of my kids,
right,
and take care of my family, and working 2-3 jobs and trying to start a nonprofit and do a whole bunch of things. A lot of times we get criticized for the goals and the challenges that we try to beat, and not enough credit for the work that we do.
Okay.
And then the second one, very controversial position.
Okay.
I hate child support.
Okay.
I think child support is a ridiculous, redundant structure.
Okay.
Follow me.
Talk about it.
A man that doesn't have a job is put on child support. Eventually down the line, he gets arrested because he can't pay. He loses his driver's license because he can't pay. And he's pretty much completely prevented from actually paying a bill that is accruing.
Yes.
So it's like it just doesn't make any sense to me.
Okay.
That we would put Black men under that structure, only to then limit them even more from being a support system for their kids.
Okay, that's an interesting perspective. So, what would be your solution?
Again, there's hundreds of thousands of jobs that need to be worked. No, maybe you put this man in a court order position to work this job so he can support his kids. Or you create a program that allows them to have transportation back and forth to get to a job that is sustained so they can work and take care of their kids. But what I don't like the imprisonment of Black men for not paying subsequently I guess I don't want to call it a bill, but paying a system that is unjustly rated, right? So you got dudes. I know, like, as a man, like as a Black man, a Black father, I pay child support, right? I pay an exuberant amount of money in child support.
Okay.
Whatever. I know men that are paying $33 in child support.
Okay.
And they got better jobs than me.
So you feel like the system is unfair?
In my opinion, it's just like, yo, it's an arbitrary system, man. Like, just throw it away and figure out something new, man. Like, so for instance, right? If during this COVID crisis, if you owe back child support, you didn't get a stimulus check.
Correct.
What? So you got like what?
Yeah, that's what happened.
It just doesn't it doesn't make sense.
Okay.
So for me, I would rather, I always tell women, like, if you can work something out with that man, do that before you allow a third party to enter into your family and decide, how that man is going to be a father. So
I definitely agree that, in my personal opinion, I feel like the situation should be worked out. But there are situations where it's not able to be worked out.
Absolutely. And then,
so there's different sides of the coin. Definitely.
It's like, we got to exercise some level of discretion.
Mm-hmm.
It can't be, because he made you upset, you going downtown.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yes. That's an interesting topic. Definitely a touchy topic. Controversial topic.
Yes.
To address.
Yes.
For sure. Do you have any other misconceptions about men that you would care to share? Before we end this interview.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything that people don't already know. Like, Black men already have a hard time anyway,
Mm-hmm.
So, I just hope that we take this time, especially with everything that's transpired with George Floyd,
correct,
to really take a step back and kind of analyze the pressures that we have, that Black men have to experience on a consistent basis, and then how we can work to not just alleviate the pressures of police brutality, but figure out ways to help the Black community, particularly Black men, with dealing with the traumas and experiences that they have on those types of levels.
That's so important. That's so important. And I feel like, reform needs to happen. And it doesn't just need to happen on a social level. It needs to happen on an economic level. It needs to happen on so many different levels. And that's one of the reasons why I have the Black Motivation broadcast, is I want to provide people not with an escape, not only with an education and inspiration, with a masterclass where they're able to sit down and hear from people who are successful how they got to where they are, so that we can rise up out of some of these situations that we're in. And so I really want to take some time to thank you, Daimen, for coming on the Black Motivation broadcast and sharing with us, your story, your inspiration, and what you've gone through.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you.
All right. Well, this, everyone, has been an episode of the Black Motivation broadcast. Daimen, please tell us how we can find and support you on social media.
You can follow the Urban Literacy Academy at ULA Baltimore on Instagram. Currently, that's the only platform that we're using at the moment. And then you can follow me on Instagram at the Dondi Lama.
All right. But thank you so much for joining us. And everyone, this has been an episode of Black Motivation Broadcast. We are out. Thank you.
Thank you.